What is going on? You are listening to TAGSPodcast, aka Talk About Gay Sex Podcast. This is episode 558. I am your host, Steve V, alongside Lincoln. How you doing, Lincoln?
Hello, Steve. Hello, Kodi. Hello, everybody out there. It's been a minute. It's nice to be back.
Our hearts and condolences go to you and Peter because we heard about Salty Pretzel. And we just want to say we're thinking about you, and I know she's looking over you. So
yeah.
Sending you love. Oh.
Thank you, Kodi. We had about 2 weeks ago tomorrow, or when this airs, it'll be 2 weeks on the dot. She had a very hard night, and everyone agreed it was time. And actually, the emergency room vet who helped us a year and a half ago save her life met us at our vet to help put her to sleep. And the entire vet office, all the girls at the front desk and the guys and the girls in the back, they all came in and said goodbye. It was very, very heartfelt. And she went around 11:30 on a Tuesday. She took her last breath. And that night I had this dream where I'll just tell it. It's really good. It was me and Peter and two friends of ours. And we had these huge martini glasses. And we were like laughing and cheersing. And the martini glasses, they were enormous, right? They were like a cartoon. And they were full. And no matter how much we drank or how hard we cheered, nothing would spill. It was like an OCD dream. Yes. It was like exactly what you always want. And we're cheersing. And you know that artist that does the staircases that are like continuous up and down and up and down? You know that artist where it's like drawings?
Right. Yeah.
Around us were these arches with the stairs in and out of them. And Salty Pretzel was running up the stairs and running down. And my big dog, Alphaba, was chasing her up and down the stairs. And what was so crazy was her tail grew back. Because when you have a Yorkie, they clip their tail. And this little 4-inch tail was like wagging like crazy. And she was going up the stairs and down the stairs. And I woke up and I was in such joy when I woke up. And then I got very sad. We've been very, very sad. I made a little memorial at the bakery that was her spot with an orchid. And I'm going to do a little plaque in the front of the shop. She's a force to be reckoned with. And we really miss her a lot.
Yeah. What a great dream and vision.
Yeah, because it was great. She's been in my dreams twice since then, too. So she ain't going anywhere, I'm happy to say.
Not going anywhere. Also, of course, joining us is Kodi Maurice Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
Hello, darling. It's been 5 minutes and I'm already emotional. So,
Sorry I took so much of your airtime. Sorry, Kodi.
No, that's totally fine. I loved every second. Thank you.
Aww. Love it. Well, welcome, Kodi. We love it when you talk back to us. And Kyle Applegate, who has actually been Reverend Kyle Applegate, who's been on our show before, works at the Eagle, Boots Black, all the above, wanted to comment on a recent topic of open relationships that Kodi and I were talking about. And says, I've been polyamorous for 25 plus years. Usually when couples open their relationships, they have lots of rules to make them feel safe. We call them agreements because they are something you both agree on and you can negotiate as comfort levels change because trust has been built. And thanks, Kyle, on that because I really love that. That really makes sense to me. Over the weekend, it was a big weekend in Miami as Miami Beach Pride occurred, and guess who got the keys to the city? None other than Billy Porter, which was so cool. And Billy Porter was presented with the keys to the city of Miami Beach by City Commissioner Alex Fernandez, and they said, for what you signify to all of us and because you are the key to the happiness and the joy of so many. Well, Billy Porter had an amazing speech. He said, I was 16 years old at the beginning of the AIDS crisis. We didn't have the luxury to hide, Porter said. We didn't have the luxury to not be active. As an HIV positive man, we had to go straight to the front lines to fight for our lives. And that's exactly what we did. We came together as a community, we fought back, and we succeeded. Yes, the world changed because we came together. And he continued to say, we're now in a position where we must come together again. We must fight the forces of evil that are trying to destroy us. The one thing that I know, and the one message that I try to exude everywhere I go, is that change has already happened. We don't have any time for fear. Toni Morrison says this is precisely the time when artists go to work. There's no need for fear. There's no room for silence. We speak, we write, we do language. This is how civilizations heal. And what a powerful speech. And often pride is filled, I feel, with just joy and, just letting your hair down and having a good time. But Billy can definitely do that. But Lincoln, when you hear this speech, and Miami is considered one of the, at least in the America, the kickoff for Pride season. What do you think about honoring Billy Porter and giving him the keys?
It's really great. I'm so excited for Billy. He's such a sweet guy. And he said that he's been saying that quote where it's already happened over and over again. And I feel it is so quotable. When he first said that, I think I first heard it on The View. I might have heard it before then.
Oh, yes, The View,
I
right.
might have heard it, though. I saw him at the 92nd Street Y in an interview before he went and sang at Carnegie Hall with Idina Menzel. It was like a screaming night of fantasticness, and I think he might have said it there too. But yeah, I love that concept, and I love when people of my generation, of my generation, remind people of that. Just today, I was at the bakery, and there was this very modern, I would say 70-year-old woman with this black bob that started like here, and her neck was shaved up to the bob. She looked like she walked out of cabaret. And she came in and she was like, I've lived in Chelsea for over 40 years. And we started it's the reason I'm bringing it up is she mentioned how in the 90s you had this cross section of people dying of HIV, late 80s, 90s, but you also had so much compassion and artistry in the neighborhood and expressing, like with stores like the Starting Line and the Rawhide and all the fabulous Rocking Horse, all gay waiters, Elmo, all cafeteria. It was such an outburst. And she's like, Chelsea will always rise above no matter how it evolves. And it kind of reminds me of that same thing of like, who's going to bring that up if it's not her? And who's going to double down on it if it's not me? You know what I mean? And my employee and the girl I assume straight girl that was in the bakery, they both kind of heard that in the ethers. And I love that, much like Billy Porter kicking off Pride this year with that sentiment. Very nice. I love it.
Absolutely. And Kodi, it's so true, because when you hear statements like this from Billy and you see, we're going to talk about some stories, a sad story, another brutal attack on a gay man that we'll talk about that in a minute. But now is the time. Change is happening. It's already happening. And now is the time to come to the front of the lines like he did during the HIV, which is still going on.
Yeah. Totally. And I love Billy Porter. I think he's fantastic. And this call to action is so motivational. And I'm glad he was the one to do it, because it's something that needed to be said, definitely. It's so easy to fall into complacency and to really kind of put those things behind you on the back burner. But we can't do that, because it's a constant struggle and a constant fight that we have to be fighting in order to get where we need to be. Where we want to be is it's all people together and being free and being able to, live their lives peacefully.
Yeah, it's almost like I wonder if this Pride season will see a lot more of what Billy's talking about. Yes, we want the celebrations and all that fun, but maybe some of this will resonate to get a lot of us to come to the front lines, because now's the time that we're in a whole, we can't hear of more people getting beaten and trans community getting their rights taken away, our community in general. And so this would be the season to really listen to what our leaders are saying, vote, and come to the front lines.
Yeah, and write to your community leaders, because voting is one thing, it's amazing, but we got to keep that pressure on those people, because, they are our representatives at the end of the day.
And you're so right. Community leaders too. We always think, and yes, we're going to vote for the president. That's a given. But really look at your own politics. This is our
Yep.
PSA segment here. But
I also
Perfect.
think it has to be reminded that, not living in fear is knowing that things are happening that are really negative and hard, but not dwelling on them, taking great action locally and thinking globally, and also
Yeah.
remembering it's not just us. Women's rights are
right.
being taken away. There's
Ooh,
this
boom.
whole like weird morph of like the people with the loudest megaphones seem to be equal in masses to people that are the most people. For example, abortion, most people don't want the stringent laws that are now going into effect that people with a big megaphone seem like everyone wants it. It's very
Yeah.
hard to find the truth in all of that and rise
Yeah.
above and to not get down by it.
Absolutely.
Facts.
Absolutely. Okay. And I mentioned, sadly, a gay man was brutally beaten and left unconscious outside of West Hollywood's Heart nightclub in what's being touted as an apparent hate crime. His name was Alberto Alvarez, and he was found in the alleyway. And I was just there recently, and it's right next to Gym Bar and Heart nightclub or bar. And he's 53, he's a hairstylist, has many celebrity clients. He was rushed to Cedar Sinai, had to have brain surgery. This all happened Friday, April 5th. And we're really rooting for him. But his sister came on the news and essentially was saying that by the gashes that were in his eyes and the severity of how he was just brutally beaten, it's definitely seems like a gay hate crime. And this is
Hmm.
the second one that's happened in recent weeks, even not even months, to our community, where the last one was St. Patrick's Day. We were talking about that. Now here,
Yep.
and it's like, wow, you can't even go in your own neighborhood. And somebody in the comment section was like bringing up, do we need to go back to the 90s? Somebody was saying in comments where we had self-defense courses to our community, because I mean, I would take some of these too myself, right? I don't want to walk around and not feel unprepared if my life might get threatened. I mean, when you hear this, Lincoln, obviously it's terrible, but what do you think of that, even what that commenter said about, do we need to go back into a time, and also the things that we were talking about before on get in touch with your local officials?
Well, I think everyone who lives in a major city needs to be aware. It's not just gay hate crime. It's just there are a lot of sick people in our metropolitan cities that need help. And they need mental help, they need financial help, they need food, and they need resources to get them out of addiction. So no one really wants to be attacking gay people. Like, no one wants to be sitting on my doorstep cracked out on something on 8th Avenue. No one wants to be homeless. No, it's that they have nothing else to lose. They're angry about one thing or another, and they take it out on a community or a person or somebody else. So they need help. So you're right. It is about our community and our mayor and all those things, but you have to be self-aware. If you're walking down the street, and I get freedom of expression and freedom of speech and all the freedom that you want. But if you're walking down a street at night in pink hot pants with big earphones on and you can't hear what's happening around you, and it's not your calling for it, but you just need to be aware. I think people
Yeah.
need to be aware. And yeah, you need to know how to defend yourself. You need to remember like how to hold your keys with one
Yeah.
key sticking out in the middle, because you don't know what might pop out of nowhere. And it doesn't even have to do with you. They just might want
Yeah.
money for their next fix, or they might have just lost somebody and be really angry and take it out on you. So I think
Yeah.
we have to be aware.
Aware is such a good word. And I used to walk around with my phone like this, just like la la la, and people snatch them in your hand left. That's like on a really basic level, but people are doing way worse things. And so you do need to be aware. Obviously, we live in New York, where on the subway system, now I don't even listen to my headset when I'm there. I'm not too close to the rail because I just feel like I don't want to get pushed in. And Kodi, when you hear all this, you hear about what's going on in West Hollywood, our own cities, my goodness.
Yeah, I'm in Kansas right now, and I'm still applying all of these things that I've learned living in a major city about being aware of your surroundings. If you see something that is coming up in your purview that might look a little sketchy, cross the street. This is happening way too often. It's happening to our community. I think what Lincoln said he has a point. There are people that are desperate out there, but there are also people who do not like LGBTQ plus people.
Hate
So there
crimes.
exactly, there's that component to it as well. So I think that, again, we need to be as aware as possible, and this is not like we've discussed this before on this show, but I heard about today about a trans woman who was thrown in the tracks by her lover. And yeah, Hope Giselle just did a whole
Domestic,
interview
yeah.
with her. Yeah, it was domestic. So this violence is going on against our community on all aspects, and we just need to be as cognizant as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Over the weekend, a whole thing went viral where men were into men, not sissies. And it was a guy that created a flag for masculine gays. Okay, we get it. Roll your eyes. But a tweet. Actually, it's very funny because this story just came out a few minutes ago, and Kodi and I are on a thread with a listener sinfully on Instagram, and he had sent it to us, and but he also said, I don't know if this is serious or not. Well, now it is actually taken seriously, and I'll read it why we're doing it now. A tweet featuring an image of a black and white U.S. flag with a thin rainbow stripe running across the middle went viral over the weekend. It was reminiscent of the flag created to celebrate law enforcement, which features a thin blue line across the center. And the person at Tennessee Twunk posted, it said, quote, made this flag in support of the masculine gays like me who are ostracized by the community. We're into men, capital MEN, not sissies. Hashtag thin rainbow line. Well, you can imagine this didn't sit very well with many people. People came for it and said, when I was younger, I quit choir, became a football player, and being masculine presenting helped me survive high school. I have 2 state rings, but walked away from something I enjoyed. As adults, we shouldn't continue to uphold homophobia within our own community as gay men. And that was seemingly the sentiment by many people on why are we dividing within our own community now. And others said, I think it's too late for him to find a community. He's not allowed in any gay communities and hasn't realized that the straight conservatives will never accept him for being anti-gay. His life is basically over at this point. Well, that's severe. There's no real purpose for him anymore. Well, these kind of statements, I mean, when you go to artwork and you create an artwork and you know it's probably going to be divisive and you're putting it out there on Twitter, I think there's a side of yourself, I think, that wants this attention, and you're shining a light on yourself. He had to know that he was going to get this divisiveness, and maybe sitting back and laughing because this is what he wanted in some way. Lincoln, I mean, what do you even say to this?
It's amazing what some people do for attention.
Yeah.
It's also, I went out yesterday somewhere, haven't been out for a while. Mind you, after Pretzel, I'm in a certain mindset where I just kind of want to be in a corner and watch people relate. And 90% of the crowd, it was so nice. It was LeBain on a Sunday. It was beautiful. People dressed up. People were interacting. People were having a really good time. But there were, I would say, in my experience, 2 guys. I was walking and they're like, push them, just push, just put. And I was like, what are you doing? Haven't you ever walked through a nightclub before? Like, no, I'm not just going to push. And then there were 3 so affected with the jewelry and the drink and that I was like, can I just push all 6 of you off the top of the roof? Because it's not Love and let love. You don't have
Yeah.
to be that masculine. You don't have to be that feminine. Take a pill. And I looked and went, how sad. How
Yeah.
sad that that is how extreme you need to express yourself at the oppression of other people having a good time makes you you.
Wow.
And
And
I could
it's
put
so
a rainbow flag down a police thing, or I could put a unicorn in the middle of a American flag and see either one. But I don't think when you're pushing other people down to make yourself feel big, it just shows how ignorant you are on either side of that.
ignorant in
For
how you
me,
are, and also just how about kindness that we put forth, because that's just rude and unnecessary. And it reminds me a little bit of when I was in West Hollywood actually recently, a few weeks ago, and I was at the Abbey having Sunday brunch on Oscar Sunday with a friend of mine, and they were doing drag bunch, and it was lovely and it was super fun. They were so talented, and they were, you know, if anyone knows the Abbey, they were meandering through the crowd, putting, twerking and giving their all, and it was amazing. And a group of, I want to say, younger Gen Zers came in, and they were mixed, guys, girls, non-binary, and they were doing a photo shoot in kind of the walkway where the drag queens were going to be performing through.
Uh-oh.
And they're
Uh-oh.
in major, they sashayed in, which is great, but they were drawing a lot of attention to themselves and doing this photo shoot, and it was so disrespectful in my mind and my friend's mind, because we just thought, like, seriously, you could do a photo shoot anywhere, but it's like they're in the middle of performance mode right now, and the drag queens ignored them. They didn't even go down their area. They were classy, but it was just rude. And I thought, like, you could do your photo shoot at any time. We get it, you're a social media influencer, but right now, why not give it to the performers that are working their asses off right now, and for tips and all that good stuff? So, I mean, Kodi, when you hear all this, what do you say?
This is insane to me. I just don't understand people like this, like Lincoln said, that have to put other people down in order to pick themselves up. It's just completely, it doesn't connect for me. If you are masculine, be masculine. If you're feminine, be feminine. If you're anywhere in between, it's okay to be who you are, and just be yourself.
We don't
I
need a
consider
flag for it, by the way. You know?
definitely. We did not need
There's
that
too many
horrible
flags to
artwork
keep track
for
of.
sure.
I can't
That
keep track of
artwork
these
was
flags.
disgusting. Uh, I, I I also want to say I am a sissy. I'm a blouse, and you know what?
I
If
see
they
that
want to come
walk.
see me with these hands, I could take any of them out, any day, any week, any. So just come and see me if you need some, if you want to. I've taken some self defense classes, so just wanted
I
to
will
say
say one thing, like, it was daylight, it was a beautiful day. Maybe these particular people were drinking just a little too much. They didn't even know what their behavior was. Like, I do try and give people the benefit of the doubt,
Sure.
but at the same time, and in our community, and I know there's not a lot of common denominators lately. Like, Drag Race is a huge common denominator, and if you don't watch Drag Race, you're almost shunned for it. Like, you're not part of the cool kids. And it's
Kodi,
like,
what do you say to that? No.
if I cared any, truly, if I cared any less, I'd be dead. But I can also throw you under a bus and talk
how
about
do we kick
theater.
him out of here?
Like, if
Yeah,
you
tough.
talk
Yeah.
about theater and musical theater and what's happening
Yeah.
on Broadway or what's happened to certain divas, or, but I could go there. But
Right.
Yeah.
it's just fascinating to me how I think it's the phone. I think it's this bullshit. We all have our tunnel that we follow on this device which affirms that we're right in our thought pattern. And
Way
if
of
you have
thinking.
a right wing Trump phone following thing that you do, that is your common sense. And why would it stop at our community? It's all
Yeah.
falling. I don't want to say it's all falling apart, because it has to fall apart to build up to something big. So,
Oh,
like
yeah.
Billy
Turning
Porter saying,
point.
it's already happened. But if
Yeah.
Yeah.
within our community, that's also what is happening, we need to take a look at that, because it always starts with your behavior every morning to every time you go to sleep. Period.
Facts. And I love you even though you don't like Drag Race, okay? I still love you.
I don't
All the heart.
dislike it. I just don't care.
Oh,
like
did you see that? I made hearts.
it's so cute. Yay! Does it work on that too? Oh, it didn't work on that.
But
I don't dislike it, and I think they're very talented, and that show has come such a long way over the years.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the original episodes compared to the art that's happening now, very, very different world. It's just not my, let's talk about Limpika on Broadway. Like no one cares.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. But at this point, let's go to 90s, since we've been talking a little bit about old school, and we have a couple stories from the 90s, TV 90s, and we're going to talk about Sex and the City and Melrose Place to kick it off, because Melrose Place is having its second reboot. I didn't know it had a first reboot, but I used to watch Melrose Place from 1992 to 1998. Lincoln, did you watch it?
I did. I don't remember it that well, but I remember I watched. That was back when you watched every episode and it was over. Like you didn't even tape it. You watched it.
Yeah,
it was over. You know what I mean? And then it's like, oh my gosh, 90210, and even Friends at the all that. Yeah. I did.
Well, thankfully, Heather Locklear, Amanda, is coming back for the reboot, as well as Sydney and a few others will come back. But the story that kind of caught my eye was they were reminiscing back in the original season. There was a gay character by Matthew Fielding. Doug Savant played him in that era. He was killed off later, though. And the one moment that he was going to have a kiss, he met one of the roommates' friends who turned out to be gay. And I was watching that scene earlier today, and they have a moment where, well, what's, the other one going to say? And they have this kiss. Well, they actually, Fox was the network at the time, decided to not show the kiss, but you knew they were going to kiss. They wimped out in the end. It was the 90s, and we never got that. But Doug Savant, who's now 54, was able to kind of recoup after his character's untimely death. He did go on to other things like Teen Wolf, Godzilla, and a couple of recurring shows like Knots Landing, my favorite, Desperate Housewives, and so on and so forth. So he sadly won't be in the reboot because of that. But a lot of us saw that, and I remember watching it in the 90s too. And was I out yet? Yes, I was out. Yes, of course. But we were hoping for so much more to be seen in that. Do you remember the character that Doug Savant played, Lincoln?
No, because I don't really remember it very well.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. It wasn't that kind of show for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was good. It was. Kodi, you're maybe a little too young for it. I'm not sure.
You
probably love me saying that.
No, I was a teenage. No, I was a young adult then, like adolescent, basically, almost a teenager. And I remember Doug Savant, but I confused him with Andrew Shue because I said he's really cute, but Andrew Shue was the one for me back in the day.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it. I can't wait for the reboot. I think it's going to be good. I love Heather Locklear. I hope Marsha Cross comes back. I don't know if she's going to shave her head again. That's the only thing I really that jumps out to me was her with that bald head.
Yeah, it's very a la Britney. Pre-Britney, I think. So, yeah. Oh, it's hilarious. Okay, other 90s shows that people were talking about, and this time Gen Z was attacking Sex and the City, and the gays aren't having it. And it's because as we know, Sex and the City was huge back in the 90s, but it's now going to be streaming or is streaming on Netflix, which is kind of cool. You can watch every episode. And a lot of Gen Z has been watching it, and they are not really getting why everyone liked it so much. I'm a Gen Zer, said somebody, watching Sex and the City for the first time. It's not just outdated, it's cringy. They went on to say that devout fans would admit there is plenty of cringe. We know that. We wanted flawed characters. We know that Carrie declaring that bisexuality is a layover on the way to Gay Town. And that's probably where, who's the famous comedian that Margaret Cho, thanks producer Vivian over there. Margaret Cho used that. It's not a layover to destination at all. Samantha using derogatory slurs when fighting with Black transgender sex workers was a little bit. Miranda's near constant classism. We could go on. I mean, it was just fun. I could see maybe if you were a Gen Zer watching it now, maybe it would seem a little cringe, but it was fabulous. And that's why we have And Just Like That now, so they could repair all the damage
Yeah.
that they did back then. I mean, Kodi, what do you say to these Gen Zers that are a little bit like critiquing an era that was an era?
Wait, so when are we talking about X-Men 97? That's all I really want to know. No.
X-Men
What is
97 will
that? Is
devote
that
a whole
Drag
episode.
Race? I don't understand.
Is that
Well,
Drag
it's
Race, Kodi?
no, it's a new cartoon of the X-Men from the 90s, and it's out now, and it's amazing. Go check it out. Remember we talked about Bo DeMayo getting fired from...
Oh, yes, right, we did.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
No,
And this
we
was his-
did not.
Sorry,
I
Steve
still
and I
want an
talked
Ally
discussed
McBeal
it.
reboot. They're also talking about an Ally McBeal reboot. That's where I would
Okay,
come into this
Lincoln, Ally
conversation.
McBeal reboot with Callista
With Callista
Flockhart.
Flockhart, who looks
Yeah.
amazing.
She does in that
Yes.
Swan, Black Swans. But yeah, okay, go Kodi, and then I want to hear from
Yes.
Lincoln.
So back to Sex in the City. It was cringy, definitely. I don't remember Samantha yelling derogatory things to those sex workers. I thought she just told them to be quiet.
She did, and
Yeah.
No, she
but
didn't.
No,
it was
They invited
What'd
them all on a rooftop for a barbecue
Oh, that's right.
afterwards.
And then they had fun.
and
It was never derogatory. It was like sassy back.
it was sassy.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
She did talk to the black chef. That was a cringe episode. That was also, I don't want to take up your time, Kodi, I apologize, but do you
Oh, you're
remember
fine.
there was a black famous chef that had a black brother and had a problem
Oh,
with
yes.
Samantha dating him because she was white?
Yes,
Yes.
and that got a
episode
little
was
cringy.
so uncomfortable, but much like I'm just going to make my point, then Kodi, you could take
Yeah.
it back. It's like taking down the statues. It doesn't make sense. If we put up statues of people that own slaves, leave the statue, educate what good they did and what bad they did so we learn from it. Why are we just tearing it down or canceling it? We're never going to grow up. If we
Meaning
keep
as if
doing
it
that,
didn't exist.
it makes no sense. It's
Yeah,
just
I
like
hear you,
people
yeah.
saying New York was so bad in the 80s. Giuliani cleaned it up and now we don't have anything fun anymore. Well, everyone who was complaining how bad it was wanted it to be cleaned up. You can't do one without the other. So,
Yeah.
meh.
Yeah, I agree that we should be learning about that stuff and what was wrong with it, but I think the statues need to come down because they're a symbol to a time that I would rather not relive. I think that that's disgusting.
They're
But back
taking down
to-
statues of Abraham Lincoln, so I don't agree with you. I think educating people
Abraham
why
Lincoln?
the statue is that. Yes, I think educating. This is an old topic. We don't need to get into it, but fine, take them down, but maybe have a photo of what was there and why we took it down. Otherwise, you're never going to know.
That is something I can get behind. That is definitely something I can get behind. Back to Sex in the City, though. I think
Yeah.
that a lot of these discussions we should be having, like just here right now, coming through with differing viewpoints. And sometimes things need to be a little bit cringy. So you're going to kind of process why you are feeling this way and what's going on behind the scenes as far as why this is cringy, what the actual way forward is in order for us to learn. Like Lincoln was saying, I think that it's a great idea to just learn from these things. And like you said, Steve, it was fabulous back in the day. And I think that was the main point of it. And as long as it continues to be fabulous, then I'm cool with it. I'm going to go give it a rewatch though, because I want to know what all these Gen Zers are talking about.
It's a fun rewatch.
It's a fun rewatch, and I would say to anybody, I watch a lot of this network, TCM, the Classic Movie Channel, and many of their
cringe.
hosts, they do a really great, and they'll show movies from, I like to choose movies from the maybe 50s and later, but they'll go all the way to the silent film era at some point. But what they do, all of their hosts, and they've got these great hosts, and they introduce most of their films before they start, and they give you a little deep dive education on what was going on in the film back then. But they really also do a deep dive and educating on you. A lot of our films were made at a time when slavery was, still around, and things, the civil rights movement hadn't happened yet, and they want people to know we're not going to erase the film anymore, but you should know you're going to maybe hear things. You're going to hear things like Negro and and other words that aren't really PC at all today. But they don't want to erase history. Film. It was film, you just should know that when you watch some of these films. And sometimes they'll even put that at the beginning too. The same thing with Sex and the City. It was the 90s. It's what we knew then. We know better now, but it
Yep.
doesn't mean that the art shouldn't be erased from life because there's a few cringy moments. You should just know that it was shot in a time in the 90s when this was life. And, like I said, they're doing better with And Just Like That. I think they are, at least. So
I think they are too. They had a non-binary character, and sometimes you got to learn from being cringe.
exactly. Okay. Well, I really want to hear from both of you on this next one because we're all into our gym culture. And there's a really deep dive article out exclusive that came out by Alexander Chavez about gay gym culture has a deadly downside. And much of it, they said, is amplified by social media. Body dysmorphia and other mental health issues are taking a toll on queer men. We've talked a lot about it on this show. This isn't that new, but the person writes depression is weird. Sometimes you have to sweat it out. The reps, weights, and endorphins of gym life pushed me through bad months, writes the author. Some years ago, a meme went out of a cartoon of a man flexing his arms in a mirror with a thought bubble over his head. Quote, "Yup, still dead inside," as if no matter how big he got, it wasn't going to satisfy him. And the article, which is worth posting on Tags Podcast episode 558, because it's a really good, they interview psychologists, gay psychologists. In fact, one of them wrote The Velvet Rage. The clinical psychologist Alan Downs posits that gay bodybuilding can be an attempt to ward off feelings of inadequacy in a culture that marginalized us. And today, a growing percentage of us take steroids and other supplements, and it's actually growing. In fact, in Europe and US, anabolic steroids use is increasing in men across the world, and rates of body dysmorphia disorder are also on the rise. Then we talk about the various gyms, boutique fitness gyms, Equinox, John Reed, David Barton, which you know very well. David Barton proved that selling fitness and sex together was a lucrative formula, especially in American cities where young, horny people had cash to burn. And it goes on that this was an interesting quote, and then I want to hear from you. In the last person that I quoted from said, in ancient Greece, we see that same-sex partnerships were built on the idea of an older, more masculine partner and a younger, beautiful, athletic youth. Their physical appearance played heavy in this dynamic, he said, and this later became the foundation for European construction of homosexuality as an identity from the 1700 onwards, with wealthy men traveling on grand tours to see the hyper athletic statues of nude men and gods from the classic world. So it's a thing that I think we're all enmeshed in, gym culture. Kodi and I were talking before you got on, Lincoln. You just about working out. We're coming back for Pride, ready to go. You teach a class at David Barton. I mean, what are your thoughts on body dysmorphia, but also happiness within our community?
It ends and begins with you. It ends and begins with you. A gym is not going to make you one thing or the other. Body dysmorphia goes to women, any sexuality across the board. It's not just in a gay gym or a gay culture. I personally miss how gay some gyms used to be, because now there's girls and there's older people and there's younger people, and it's like everything's the YMCA, and everyone has been training on Instagram through a pandemic, so no one knows what really works anymore or doesn't work. They get irritated when people correct them because they haven't had people correct them on their social media of how to work out. And social media is amplifying body dysmorphia way more than any box gym
Amen.
could ever begin to try and do so. There has
Thank you.
also
That was the
been,
one part in the article that I wanted to like say is that's the biggest culprit. So
yeah,
thank you
are
for
you
saying that.
kidding? It's
Yeah.
destroying our culture. And um no matter what gym you go to or what you're doing in your life, you're the one who has to find balance. I think there's I think the lack of a spiritual center for our community is more of a problematic thing than a gay gym that's motivating. Because we don't, and I'm not telling people to go to Roman Catholic Church. I'm talking about like Marianne Williamson ceremonies or the West Village Church, or just people coming together once a week to just have a common message of love one another, forgive one another, take a breath. We're all in this together, because we seem to forget that we are all much more similar than we are different. And the more we try and be different or individuals and push everyone down, like we just said before, to have self-esteem, it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're never going to have self-esteem. The other thing I want to say is testosterone has come a long way for men's health as you get older. And there is a big difference between small amounts of testosterone to keep your hormone levels alive and be I'm talking very unscientific, so just go with me here. To have a doctor that checks your blood and keep it in balance, that can keep you a virile, healthy man in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Now that's very different than doing a cycle through a trainer at some random gym and filling yourself with steroids. Very different.
But you've said this a lot, and we've continued your thought process on this several times on the show, where have your doctor, it's a simple test, have your doctor take your blood work to test your testosterone, because it could actually be low. And that's different from taking anabolic steroids to increase it to a different, and so that's just a healthy way that you can just, get
the other thing I
healthy.
do want to pull up, and I swear I'll shut up, is much like with the Gen Zers criticizing Sex in the City, and now these people criticizing gay gym culture, get your ass to the gym and work out, because I have a feeling these people are at home not doing any working out. Gen Zers lost the 90s because they weren't alive, and now they're jealous, so they have to tear it down and say it was wrong because they weren't there, and they're never going to be there. And the world that they live in right now seems like a bit of a cesspool of self-hatred and being a star on something that really doesn't matter. Nobody cast you to be an influencer. Grow up.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you said really resonates, and social media is a huge culprit of it. I will also say, though, aging too. I used to be so caught up in the mirror, and I still am. I think that vanity, and you want to look the best that you can look, but age has really helped me out with. Now I work out for health and appearance, but I don't mind that I have a few extra, like I used to mind when I don't know, it's really hard for me to get rid of that little extra bit on my body that may never, and I'm not going to keep fighting that. I also don't care as much in my early 50s anymore. I mean, I just want to look the best I can do, and I'm hoping that as more people age, you lose a lot of that too, and you just focus more on what's right and being healthy. But yes, you want to look is the best that you can look. Yes.
Can I just make two more quick points? One is, as you get older, your fitness has to be about balance, because you're sitting a certain way on a chair and you're twisting a certain way and your lower back is going out, or you had to have a hip replacement, or you had to have a bicep reattachment, or you hurt your ankle on the stair. Ankle surgery. So thinking that all gay gyms that are just motivation for the gay community are making body dysmorphia even worse, while there's no truth to it, I wouldn't overly focus on that. And listen, I have read The Velvet Rage 4 times. I have a lot of problems with that book, but I also think it has a lot of really good things for the gay community. So if anyone hasn't read it, I listened to it on audio. He sounds like a very privileged white homosexual to me when he talks, which I couldn't get over for a long time. And then I had to listen to it again to just try and hear the message. And again, there is this loftiness about the gays in Roman time, like you were friggin' there. There's a lot of projection going on. You were not part of the Roman times. I have a minor in sexual identity. There is books written about it, but again, no one was really there. So take a breath, everyone. Come on.
I love it. Yeah. Maybe we won't make it our book club, Kodi. I don't know. But Kodi,
it's a good book club, especially with a diverse audience reading it. I would love to be part of that book club. Because all I did was feel like that fabulousness was so ignorant. And being a multicultural community wasn't really addressed. And the
Yeah.
AIDS
Yeah.
virus was almost, I don't know. I don't know if I want
Cody,
to
you get
listen
the
to it
next
again, though.
15
Well, let's
Sorry.
minutes
get
because
into it.
Lincoln and I talk so much. And by the way, Cody has a brand new single. If you haven't downloaded it,
Talk
I'm
about
trying
it.
to talk about it. Available wherever you get your music, but it's really good. But inspired by Talk About Gay Sex. Thank you so much. But go
Yes,
ahead,
that's
Cody.
right. Yeah, I say this in a tank top, and I'm trying to look as sexy as possible on this podcast because I know that this is going to be used on Instagram as
Okay.
promotion. So I'm a
Totally
vain
forgot about
person.
that. Yay!
Also in a tank top over there. Love it.
So I get this and I understand it. But let me tell you, I've been working out in the gym for a long time, and it has not made me feel as insecure about my body as social media has. So you guys hit the nail on the head with that, because this is something, social media, I've thought about taking steroids to get like these guys. I've thought about taking TRT, but ultimately all of those side effects were too much and it was too far for me in order, because my body is not a temple, but it's more like I don't know, like a ramshackle house where you have to take your shoes
Could be
off
your
before you come
temple.
in. But I just think that this is something that we all have to deal with, and we all, like Lincoln said, we should be getting help with it. If we go to a church or what have you, a place of worship, and get that in order to kind of have our minds more at ease with this, is what
A
I want to say.
meditation
And
practice, even. Sorry, I just wanted to take.
meditation,
Yeah, I knew
it's
you'd love
okay.
that.
Yeah, and I was also going to go with talking to professionals about this, maybe get some, a therapist or something, because at the end of the day, it's about becoming more acceptable with your own body and who you are as a person, and taking that out into the world, because the more you spread it, the better off we're all going to be.
Yeah, and like 9 times out of 10, the one like you could work out and take every steroid on the planet, and when it comes to people's tastes and what you end up really being drawn to,
Yeah.
it's not always like this perfect air quote prototype that you see. It's ends up becoming so much more. So that's why I think a lot of these are saying that quote, like looking in the mirror and yep, I'm still lonely, is giving feedback to that, because even when you think you get to that perfect status of what you think is perfection, it's like I'm drawn to so many different types of people and they're not all like this, like, perfect tens. It's like, no. And you end up realizing that as you get older too, health is just as important or more important. Like, you want to be healthy first and foremost. You want to live as long as you can live, and you want to also be like quiet the noise that social media puts in your head, and it's
Yeah.
noise 9 times out of 10. So.
One thing I will just say, just to cap off this, put a button in it, as they say, is anyone
Put a
who
pin
is
in it, Lincoln.
anyone, even, it doesn't matter, even your social economic status, everyone should be in therapy right now.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
should talk to someone about something,
I
because we
agree.
went through a pandemic, we went through a maniac of a president, we're going through global things that are changing the way our planet's going to be in 5, 10, 20 years. There's an app for that. It doesn't have to be, same with a meditation practice. You can type into YouTube 5-minute meditation, find someone that has the voice that you want to listen to or looks like you want to stare at, close your eyes for 5 minutes and reset your mind.
We're
And
a podcast, and you can look up podcasts that do self-guided
great
meditations.
point,
So,
Steve. That's an
yeah,
awesome point. And
there's so
personally,
much.
and this
Yeah.
isn't a new thing, as I've talked about on this show before, I lost 82 pounds and became a fitness instructor. And I went to acting conservatory while I was losing the weight in California to move to New York and get on Broadway and find a fabulous boyfriend and live all my dreams. And I came here and I met people and they all said, "You're too skinny. You need more
Yeah.
muscle," after losing 82 pounds. So
Wow.
it doesn't matter social media, it doesn't matter gay gyms, it doesn't matter anything. It's always been in our culture. It's part of being an adult and finding the way you're going to balance it for you in your life. And if a gym raises you up to feel better, go to the gym. If it doesn't, go to a different gym, go to a yoga studio, go somewhere else, or just sit and be in silence. You'll be fine.
I
I
love
was on Reddit
it.
the other day.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know we need to, but I'm just going to say this one last thing. I was on Reddit the other day and somebody was asking about being uncomfortable in the gym. And one of the comments that really made snapped for me was that if people are not looking at you to judge you in the gym, if they're looking at you, they're looking at you because you're looking good or you're doing something, and they want to help you. Gyms are the most welcoming places. Is one of the most welcoming places that I've ever been. So I
There's
recommend
also a
going.
lot of insecurity walking around a gym, and we
Oh
all
yeah.
have it.
It's true.
Yeah,
Ooh,
we all have
Absolutely.
it.
facts.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Brene Brown
Uh,
talks about that in a lecture. She talks about what are things that make you vulnerable in her research, and a gym and a fitness class was like top 5 of what makes you feel
Wow.
vulnerable and insecure. So it's just the nature and the beast. And you're right. Especially nowadays, no one's looking at you unless they think you're cute.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
true.
Oh my God. Um, Thank you. I love this. Couple of news items. San Francisco, if you're familiar with the Stud, the classic Stud,
Coming
it
back.
just coming back. It's just had a soft opening at the historic new location. Did you know this? Julie's Supper Club is where the new Stud bar will be
Holy shit. I haven't
located.
heard of Julie's Supper. Where the hell is
Full
that?
1123 Folsom includes now 2 bars, a dance
Wow.
floor, and many events to come. So put that on your radar. You can go to 48hills.com, or excuse me, go to studsf.com. And that's great.
That's
I
fun.
loved a Stud moment. I used to go on Tuesdays when I lived there, and it was
I
super
want to
fun
go.
then.
Monday night.
And
Monday night was the best. It was Black Boy
Monday
night, and that's
night.
where I learned how to dance to Madonna in the 80s. It was the
Love
best.
it.
Mhm.
And this might sound a little like, why are you talking about this? But Bluey is a Disney cartoon, and I'm here in Puerto Vallarta, and we were at a pizzeria about a year ago, and there was a cartoon about a dog named Bluey, and I was just fixated on it that I had to know everything about Bluey. It's for children, by the way. It's Australian, but I just became, I don't know, I
Sorry.
loved it. I loved Bluey, her sister Bingo, and Mum and Dad, and I just love it. And why are we talking about it? Because Bluey just had their 3rd season launch over the weekend, and the first LGBTQ plus character was announced. And it's all from Pretzel, the character of Pretzel's parents. Bluey parents are 2 lesbians, and they have, normally the shows are 7 minutes, but this one was 28 minutes to document this. Chihuahua Pretzel revealed to have 2 lesbian mums, because that's how they say it in Australia. And the delivery of this information might be fleeting, but pretty groundbreaking, especially from Disney. Well, most people were all in favor of it, but of course, a lot of the right said, leave it to Disney to have to introduce, like, really critiqued it for, like, just coming down on it ridiculously, because it's like, what? There are lesbian mums and there are gay dads and so on and so forth. So kudos to Bluey and season 3, and I'm here for it, and I just love it.
And the
So
name Pretzel lives on. That's
There
very
you go.
sweet.
yes. Oh, I know what I did. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got it, Steve. It's coming.
I got it. Yes. Thank you for bringing it home. And I love it. Oh my goodness. I
Aw.
know. Love it. Oh my goodness. Will her Instagram continue?
Yeah, Salty Pretzel NYC, and there's a lot of memorials on there in her honor. So take a look.
Love it. And follow Lincoln, of course. He's got a protein bakery. You can visit it on 19th Street in New York City. Come this summer because it's so much fun. It's starting to get beautiful and warm. 19th between 6th and 7th, closer to 7th Avenue.
And you can also order online. We have a new subscription thing. You get 20% off, and you set to be delivered to you once a month or once every 3 months or whatever. And people are really enjoying the subscription, proteinbakery.com.
Breakfast cookies, my favorite,
Best.
and I could live off those. So same with my friend Gregory. Shout out to Gregory of the
Yay.
Eagle. And of course, follow his personal account at Mad Lincoln, at Mad Lincoln. Follow Kodi, get his new song. We talked about it. Talk about it. Available
it.
wherever you get your music,
Fun.
Spotify, Music, Amazon. He's a life coach at KMD Coaching. Follow his personal account at Mr. Maurice for some more sexy content there. Follow me on the gram. I am _Steve V, or on Tags Podcast at Tags Podcast, where you get a preview of my now Just for Fans and OnlyFans. I'm collabing and all that good stuff. It's really exciting. So I love it. And in the meantime, continue having hot
Yay.
sex.
Sex.
Lovely. Oh my goodness.